Hi, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of interest to residents of Denton County. My guest today is Dr. Matt Richardson, Denton County Public Health Director. Thank you for being here, Doc.
You bet. Thanks, Bob.
Now, recently there was an article in the Cross Timbers Gazette concerning a case of monkeypox infection of a local resident. I know your department is investigating it, and I was wondering if there have been any cases since.
We just have the one case. We have been monitoring people of interest that have been known contacts to that case and other cases, but so far we just have the one positive lab result in Denton County as of this morning.
Okay, can you tell us what are the symptoms of monkeypox?
It's going to sound like a broken record, Bob, and I apologize for that, but it turns out it starts much like the flu-like symptoms: fever, headache, maybe some respiratory distress, cough. But then it does become fulminant in a pox, in a rash. That typically is distal, what we call distal, but some of the periphery of the body, the hands, feet, toes, face. But in this instance, it can also be in the trunk, it can be in the genital region, so it can be in all of those places.
So if somebody was in the full stage of monkeypox, it would be very recognizable.
Well, actually, it would have been. These cases in the U.S., there have been people that have several pox, several of these pustules and bumps, and then there are people that might have just one or two. Right. And so it's not as obvious as it has been historically for decades of research in monkeypox. You know, monkeypox is an orthopox disease where it's very similar to the smallpox or the cowpox. So it's similar in those. This has been much less severe in this global outbreak and in the outbreak in the U.S.
Now, I'm going to talk about how it's transmitted. The information originally came out that it's transmitted through sexual contact. Is that primarily how it is? Well,
it was primarily how this outbreak began. So this outbreak did begin through sexual contact with men having sex with men, so MSMs. It began that way, but it has evolved because the virus, it doesn't care about orientation. It really is about transmission. And these orthopox or pox diseases shed viral particles from the pustule itself, so it's a contact transmission. We're still learning about if it's through all of the bodily fluids or just some of, but we do know that if you are exposed to someone with monkeypox, that it does shed viral particles from those pustules. We do know that sharing, again, bodily fluids, being exposed to those bodily fluids can be transmission. Even face-to-face contact with respiratory droplets for a long period of time, we believe that's a mode of transmission as well. So, highly infectious, but mostly contact with fluids or the actual contact with the pustules.
So any kind of physical contact. I mean, how about kissing
Yes.
and things like that? That can do it too. So
that can be.
So when it comes out on the skin as pustules and blisters and all, it is very recognizable. And how long before that would go away?
This is problematic because it's not precise. It's when the pock or the pustule scabs over, and essentially there's a new layer of skin that forms. Much like any other wound you have, like a mosquito bite, or if you scrape your knee outside doing the yard work, these types of things. So it's the scabbing and then the new skin growth. We're going to call that 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks of infectiousness. It could be just a bit shorter. It's rare that it's longer, but that 2 to 4 weeks is the best window, and we'll have better information, I'm sure, as this outbreak continues. But right now, we're going to call that the 2 to 4 week mark.
Yeah, and it is in the early stages of information getting out there, just like COVID was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Bob, that's one of the frustrating things. Is that the cases are accelerating. We have 1,470 cases in the U.S. I think we've got 43 cases in Texas, 1 case in Denton County. So 1,500 cases, roughly, that's a lot of information that we can get, but it's still early in this outbreak to know the A through Z details of the disease. And that's frustrating to us as public health practitioners. It's frustrating to the public.
Yeah. Can a person's immune system generally handle this?
This is part of the debate. So what we do think is there may be some protection from people who have been vaccinated for smallpox before, say, 1970. So I was born in 1972, and I was not vaccinated for smallpox. I was vaccinated later after 9/11 as part of public health, a response corps, and so I was vaccinated in the early 2000s. But the majority of the population, in fact, I think in the early 70s is when the population vaccination for smallpox ceased in the U.S. So there's a discussion whether that prior smallpox vaccination could be protective or minimally protective.
And the reason
we don't know.
The reason it was stopped around the 70s sometimes because it had been eliminated. As
Eradicated from the planet. So
Right.
smallpox was eradicated by the late 70s. I think the last case was 1977 or 78.
Right.
But we also know that the United States still has viable smallpox virus in Fort Detrick, Maryland, at USAMRIID, the Army research facility. And then we know that the former Soviet Union, now Russia, they have viable smallpox virus in their labs as well. And we have intelligence reports for the last 20 years that it had been weaponized by the Soviet regime. So there's always the concern about smallpox as a bioterror weapon. Monkeypox is similar, but not nearly as fatal, not nearly as deadly. And in the U.S. now, it has not been nearly as severe as previous monkeypox infections.
All right. How about the rate of fatalities from monkeypox?
Exactly. So right now, I'm unaware of any fatalities in the U.S. from monkeypox. Previously, monkeypox had about a 1% fatality rate. We have not seen that in this outbreak. That could change, but so far, the good news is this has been a milder an outbreak in its detail and in its sort of manifestation.
And how about a vaccine? Is there something to prevent this?
So back to my smallpox talk, right? So the vaccine right now is a derivative of our older smallpox vaccines. So there's still the vaccine for smallpox. The U.S. government, I think global governments maintain stocks of smallpox vaccine because of the potential of a bioterrorism weapon. And those stocks have been researched, and actually there are two vaccines, Jynneos and what they call ACAM 2000, two current vaccines for monkeypox.
Doctor, what should someone do if they think they've contracted this disease?
Go to the doctor, show them your rash that you believe could be of concern, or if you have been in contact with someone known to have monkeypox, go to your doctor, show them the rash. They will contact us, and we can coordinate testing either in the Metroplex or in Atlanta, typically both.
And I have information on the written portion of the county health department, how they can click on that and get more information.
Yes.
I understand the first case of this was brought into England on May 7th by a traveler from Nigeria in Africa. Now, here we are only 2 months later, and we have one in the county.
Right.
All right. So it goes to show these things can go very fast. It does have reminiscences of COVID.
Disease transmission is going to be a factor in Denton County because of DFW Airport. So we
Right.
are hours away from just about any point on the globe, and that is always going to be a concern.
And just quickly, Doctor, there's a talk of a new variant in COVID. Is that's something we should be very concerned with?
It is, in the fact that there are many more cases in Denton County today than there were 2 weeks ago and a month ago. The variants are BA4 and BA5, the subvariants again of Omicron, and cases are way up. Hospitalizations are somewhat plateaued in Denton County, which is great news, but cases are up. In fact, the CDC will designate us, last night they designated us in yellow, which means people who are immunocompromised need to be masked, and people caring for people who are immunocompromised need to be masked because of the numbers of new cases in Denton County.
All right, well, the clock is grabbing us already, it goes so quickly, so I just want to thank you, Dr. Richardson, for taking the time to come over to explain this, because, you know, what everyone's been through in the last few years with COVID, when people hear of a new disease, and, you know, they almost panic sets in, so it's good for them to have this information, and again, they can click on what we have on the written portion to find out more. Thank you
You
for
bet.
being here.
Bob, thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for watching.